did it. I mean, they changed things.
Okay. 1 minute, Patrick.
I'm here. And get my medicine down.
And we're ready to start.
Want me to go ahead?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning and welcome everyone to Georgia Association of Educators Retire Pre-Retirement Seminar. This is something that I think has been one of our trademarks to let everyone know the value of being a member for GAE Retired. A lot of times when you retire, you don't know what to expect, but this is one way to help you as you retire and let you know why you should be a member. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone that's here to present and that makes it possible. And I want to welcome you most of all. So I am your president of GAE Retired. And with that being said, I will turn it over to Tony, who does an excellent job with this program.
Good morning, everyone. And we are going to begin by talking about NEA member benefits. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to our member, Doris Glover. Doris, it's all yours and you can share your screen.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. I was trying to cue my music up, but that's not coming up right now. So I'll just start it by saying, money, 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 money. You see, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. And in this presentation, I'm going to be talking to you about NEA and how it looks out for its member. We're going to be looking at a closer look at NEA member benefits. And I'll be dropping that link in the chat for those of you who may not already be signed up. Hopefully you are, because every time you buy something, I want you to start thinking NEA member benefits, whether you're buying a car, a house, groceries, or whatever. I mean, it's just amazing with the number of benefits that NEA, and they were able to negotiate that because of the membership that we do have in the National Education Association. Okay, now let me see if I can cue the PowerPoint up here. Okay. Okay, are you able to see that? I know some other junk is going on my screen, but are you able to see that?
We got a black screen right now.
But it says there we go. You're up.
Okay, okay. Is it still there? Because I can't.
Yes, you're up. Just go into slideshow.
Okay. It showed, but then it kind of disappeared. Let's see. Let's see.
Doris, click on enable editing. It's in the yellow button. I mean, the yellow band.
Okay.
Right near your cursor.
Okay.
So click on enable editing and it should change.
What about now? I clicked it.
It just shows your cursor being still, but you need to see if you can get enable editing off your PowerPoint, which may mean that you need to there should also be an X on the right-hand side of the screen. I can't see that, where the yellow enable editing button is. And if that doesn't work, you need to go.
I can share for you, Doris.
Okay, go ahead, because it's showing on in the black box. My
Okay,
apologies, everyone. Okay,
stop sharing.
okay. Okay,
Right,
stop share. I click stop share and it's not,
there you are.
okay.
You're up and running. Your slide is on the screen.
I'm not seeing it though.
Then on your computer at the very top, you have, it's on the left-hand side, it should say Zoom Workplace. And then to the right of that, it says Meeting and Doris Glover's screen. And I hope Tony Smith's screen. You want to click on Tony Smith's screen. So again, you're probably, if you don't see it, Doris, you're clicked at the very top on the word meeting. And if you'll click on TS, little orange TS, it should take you there.
Okay, I'm seeing the NEA member benefits.com, which is the first slide.
That's
Yes,
great. That's
that's
it.
it. So you're ready
Okay.
to start.
All right, let's take a look at NEA member benefits, the buying power of our NEA members. Next slide. And let me just say there are 21 slides. I'm just going to highlight most of them. Then I want to go back and actually focus on one of the most popular programs that they have, and that's the shopping and the discount marketplace. And of course, if you have any questions, you may jot them down. And again, I'll be putting this site that you can go to in the chat. Okay, so I mean, as I said, anything you can think of, insurance, health and wellness, retirement, shopping and discount, and of course the travel. And the good thing about the travel program is everything is right there together. The flights, the hotels, everything. And in fact, I was on there last night trying to book me a room for homecoming in Albany this year, and they tend to price gouge all the hotels in the city. And I was able to find a great room rate in Albany. So it is worth your time to spend some time going through and navigating through this member benefits site. And learn about not only insurance that you can purchase from the group term, but also from the complimentary life insurance that's available to members. And of course, the newest thing in that area for no cost is the mental health app. You know, since COVID, many of our members have experienced a lot of mental health challenges, more so than ever. You know, so NEA has a a member help out that's available to our members. Okay, next slide. Retirement. NEA knows the importance of investing, you know, in educators. So there's information there that you can get, a free issue of this retirement report. And this one shows the September 2025 one, and it's available to you for free. Next slide. Planning guide for retirement. You know, I think someone said they're kind of close to retirement. You want to go on and don't wait until it's time to retire, but go on and actually do some planning. I wish actually that I had done more planning earlier in my career. Wish I knew now what I knew then, what I know now. But Like the TRS site, which my colleague will talk about a little bit later, there's a calculator on there that kind of helps you and assists you with a checklist to assess your current situation. Next slide. Investors, you want information on IRAs and the 403. You say, well, I have that on my job, and everyone does. So it's trying to meet the needs of all of the members. But you may want to look into it because, like I say, because it's NEA and they have the buying power of the number of members that we have, you may have a good deal in some of those with some of those companies. And when you go in and log in and set up your account again, there's a tab at the bottom that says learn about my investment. And if you want to find a specialist that's near you, because of course they're all over the country, but then you can find one that's near you. And then there's a 5-minute checkup on there. So it helps you kind of track yourself. Next slide. IRAs for NEA members, you can choose the one that fits your retirement goals. Okay, next slide. And then you can get that personalized expertise from some of our security benefits for your retirement that's specifically designed for NEA members. Next slide. I mentioned life insurance initially. There's a group and guaranteed issued life. And then the premium one where you can get up to $1 million and the rate won't change. Sometimes you're in insurances and then they go up. When you're an active member, you get that group rate, through the employer. But then once you retire, it may change. But with this insurance, the NEA, the rate does not change. So you certainly want to get a quote for that, and you can apply right there online. Next slide. Property insurance. You may live in a condo and you need some insurance there because the person's property next to yours may have caught on fire, may not have necessarily in yours, but it damaged, you have some damages that may not be covered. So certainly you want to look into that. The renter's insurance, which protects your property. Car and auto and home insurance. Those by very competitive rates. I mean, even with I have AAA, but the NEA rates, tend to be even lower than those. So just get a quote. Doesn't have to get a quote because we are trying to do what we're trying to save money. Money, money, money. It's all about the money. Next slide. Loans. NEA offers personal loans. How you can go in and consolidate those higher interest loans if you want to do some renovations, Patrick, at your house or something like that. I'm calling Patrick because he's recently, been doing some renovations. Other mortgage programs and loans, check them out. Next slide. And then the travel perks, which I just briefly mentioned earlier. Everything is on the same page there. If you want to take a cruise, resorts, flights, hotels, any of that. Just you always want to have your dream vacation, excuse me. Well, this is the site to go to. And guess what? You get travel dollars for your savings. When I booked that hotel last night, it immediately subtracted travel dollars from my total for the bill. So when Karen has a sign in there saying, and you can read it too, that when you join GAE, of course, you are an NEA member, so you're entitled to all those member benefits. See, membership has its privileges. So next slide. And you get to choose when you go in, what kind of, if you get sick and injured on your job. I know some school systems have sick leave banks. and then some do not, but NEA is a program where you can look into getting some protection if you're ever injured or if you're sick, out on in long-term care, which is very expensive if you wait to the end. But if you get it, the earlier you get it, of course, it's a lot cheaper. Affordable dental. When I retired, I was not able to take dental, into my retirement. I had it, as an active, but I have to pay for it now that I'm retired. So NEA has the vision programs and other supplementary programs that you can look into. Next slide. Health, I mentioned mental health briefly earlier. Those tools that manage the stress and just to make you feel happy, 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 happy. Okay, and then there's the health retirement.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay, that's okay. Pet care, and we need to insure your fur babies, fur baby or fur babies, and then you can get reimbursement on that one on those veterinary bills. So if you need a need of that insurance, then of course check out the pet health. Next slide. Next slide. Now this is where you can really save. Okay, look at money, retirement. So this is kind of like an overview, I
Slide you
guess.
wanted, Doris? Is this the
Pardon?
slide? Is this the slide you wanted?
Yes, I'm sorry. There are, as you can see, it's over 3,500 retailers on things like mobile phone service. And went in and looked at it. The Costco one, you can get a free membership, for that first year if you're a new member. I said, oh, well, I'm a Sam's member, but maybe I'll get that. Get that as well. But with the purchases, NEA has a program under that called Rakuten, where this money comes back to you. When you have rewards at these stores, you get credit like on your statement. Well, with this program, the money comes back to you so that you can spend it as you want to. See, when I get rewards at Sam's, I use that rewards for something at Sam's. But with this program, you can use it as you want to because they'll send you either a check or it'll be pay you through PayPal. So, I mean, credit cards and all, most credit cards you see, they may have 2%, 3%, depending on what you're purchasing. Well, with this NEA Visa card, is 6%. That's the highest I've seen. You get 6% for that first year. And to any of those 3,500. And you just go in and select the retailer that you're interested in, whether it's Macy's, Lowe's, or whatever the retailer there. You can put it in alphabetical order or just type it in for the retailer that you're looking for. And at the top of the page, there'll be an NEA discount, that page that will and there are incentives, and no, your family member can't use it. It's just for you. However, you can recommend people, and there are incentives for that. And when you join, there's an incentive for that. So it's just a great marketplace to go to. Because
And
as I
Doris,
said, yes.
may I add that I recently used the car buying program and it
Oh,
is
wow.
marvelous. It is absolutely wonderful. The
Oh,
dealers come to you.
okay. I'll have to do that because I'm going to be nearing needing a car soon. So I'll have to check that out. I did use one years ago through the GAE one, which is at the end. There is a slide for GAE, and I'll talk about that. But I mean, concert tickets. So let's think about it. Like I say, anytime you get ready to purchase something, think about it. Say, I wonder if it's something in the marketplace that I can, get a discount through or for concert tickets, theme parks, magazines, prescriptions. And not only new cars, but pre-owned cars as well. I mean, 3,500 retailers, that's a lot. It's going to be one of those, at least one of those retailers that you're already using them anyway. So why not get the money and let it come back to you as a member? I always tell people let the membership benefits pay for your dues. And that is exactly what it will do over and over and beyond, really, if you use, several of the benefits. Next slide. Okay, that's just to highlight under each category: retirement, insurance, health and wellness, money, the cash reward. And then the GAE. Hopefully by now, most of you have received your GAE membership card for the year. That card is your access card to many benefits, travel, etc. I think it's called the access card. So, and there should have been some information in your packet that was sent along with your membership card. And if you did not receive that, I'm pretty much sure you did, but if you did not, then of course reach out to GAE to access your member benefits card through our state association. So when you become a member here, you're a GAE member, and NEA member, and of course, whatever local you're affiliated with. So GAE is your access card to many deals and many discounts. Questions? Again, I'm going to put that site in the chat in case you are not already gone in and created an account.
Thank
Okay.
you so very much, Doris, for that wonderful tour of our member benefits.
Thank you.
And we are about to begin our segment on Medicare. Louise Platter has joined us. Louise, I don't know if I pronounced your last name correctly.
That is correct.
All right. I just received your email with your PowerPoint presentation. So while you introduce yourself, I will pull up your PowerPoint.
Sounds great. Thank y'all so much for having me this morning. My name is Louise Platter. I work at the Athens Community Council on Aging. We're based in Athens, Georgia. Our programs serve the 12 counties around Athens, but the information that I'm going to share with y'all today is going to be true across the state and also mostly across the country, because Medicare is pretty similar from state to state. If y'all have follow-up questions or want to talk more about these things after this presentation, if y'all are near Athens, I would be your contact person. If you're in a different part of the state, I would be happy to connect you with the right person. This program exists everywhere. It is called the Georgia SHIP program, SHIP. It stands for State Health Insurance Assistance Program. And what y'all will see, if you haven't already, is as you approach Medicare enrollment time, you just get a lot of sales pitches and things in the mail. Most of that is marketing or advertising. This program exists to be an unbiased source of information regarding your options, what plan comparisons, all those things that most people are working on a commission-based system. Nobody affiliated with the SHIP program is paid for, nobody's an insurance agent, basically. So you can work with as many different people as you want. You can have a broker. We can just be that kind of second opinion. No reason for us to tell you one thing or another other than what is going to look good for your healthcare. That can be hard to sort through all those things when everything's sort of coming at you all at once as you're either approaching 65 or retiring. And as I'm going through these slides, they are going to be general for Medicare as it kind of applies to everybody, but I will try to touch on things that might be specific to state of Georgia retirees and in general, kind of everything here with the caveat of make sure that you are having conversations with your employer as you're nearing this, because some benefits are going to be tied to your Medicare that will be worth making sure you understand. Go ahead and go 2 slides forward. I think that first one's just my Medicare 101. Yeah, so just a quick note on the Athens Community Council on Aging in case any of y'all are in the Northeast Georgia region. We have a lot of different programs besides what I do, and a lot of these programs do exist kind of throughout the state. So nutritional support, social activities, support for caregivers, dementia resources, all those kind of things. If y'all have concerns that are outside of the Medicare program, but are wondering who can help with that, I could probably get you to the right person. Next slide, please. Okay, so just quick overview, make sure we're on the same page of what Medicare is. It can be a little confusing because Medicare and Medicaid sound really similar. Medicare is what we're talking about today, and that is going to be the thing that everybody who has paid into Social Security will either age into or join due to disability. Has nothing to do with your income, but if you are 65 or older or have been collecting SSDI, disability insurance, for 2 years, you will go on Medicare. There are a couple other circumstances, thank you, couple other circumstances in which you might be enrolled in Medicare early. That would be any sort of end-stage renal disease, kidney failure, that will automatically trigger Medicare, and ALS is the other condition that will immediately start Medicare. It is going to be divided into different parts. We will go over those. And there are different costs associated with different ways of setting up your Medicare. So I'll try to break all that down, but Medicare is the big umbrella term, and then there are things, pieces within it that work together. Next slide, please. So these two things, A and B, are your kind of building blocks of Medicare. That is where everybody starts, no matter what else you end up doing. A and B of Medicare is the foundation. So you will hear it called hospital and medical coverage. That's what it will say on your Medicare card when they issue you that. I think it can be a little easier to think of it like inpatient, outpatient. If you were to go to a hospital for some kind of surgery where they release you that same day, that's all going to go through Part B. So really, if you're staying somewhere, whether that be a hospital, a rehab facility, a home health agency, hospice, all those things will be Part A of Medicare. Then Part B is everything else. So when you just go into your doctor, outpatient surgeries, any kind of equipment like a walker, wheelchair, all that, Part B of Medicare. Next slide, please. Then you have these are the other parts that kind of got added on in the years after the Medicare program was created. So we've got things that are trying to work together as best they can. Original Medicare did not have a provision for covering prescriptions. So that is what Part D does. I think that's the easiest one to remember because D is drugs. Some vaccines will go through that, but for the most part, that is what you are using at the pharmacy. Things that are over the counter, cosmetic, weight loss, things like that, Medicare will not cover. But for the most part, if your doctor prescribes it, that is how you're going to get coverage for it. And then the last piece of this is a little bit different because the things I've been talking about so far are pieces that work together. Medicare Advantage is kind of its own thing. It basically combines all of those three first parts we talked about and works a little bit more like an insurance plan that you'd be familiar with through your employer. They are going to have networks and be a little bit more have a little bit more oversight into the services you're getting done, but they can cover more than original Medicare sometimes. And in the case of state of Georgia retirees, the state does offer Medicare Advantage plans that have been particularly negotiated for retirees. So I'll try to talk about that a little more as we go through, but most of the main advertising you're seeing is not going to be through the state. It'll just be companies that sell this and they just know that you're either approaching or eligible for Medicare, and so they're sending you their stuff. Next slide, please. So a couple main differences between these two. Like I said, the Medicare Advantage is going to be pretty familiar to you if you've had a private health insurance plan through an employer. They work very similarly. You're going to have networks that you need to stay within. Certain ones require prior approval or referrals to see specialists. They will also have a little bit more freedom than original Medicare to cover things that are excluded from the original legislation that created Medicare. There have been some carve-outs of that. Medicare Advantage is allowed to do things that original Medicare can't. So that's going to be like preventative dental care. It can pay for glasses. Sometimes they'll do things like a gym membership, different pieces that are kind of fall through the cracks of original Medicare. Then if you stick with original Medicare, some of the upsides of that is that you are not having to worry about networks or referrals, prior approval. All those things are unique to Advantage with Original Medicare. If your doctor takes Medicare and they say something is necessary and you agree, you just get it done. You're not needing to send in a special approval request. But downside can be that some of those pieces, like the dental care, are missing from Original Medicare. They are going to pay for things like if you need cataract surgery, or say you need to get a filling before a surgery on your a different part of your body is safe. Original Medicare will pay for that. It's not going to pay for that kind of regular getting your teeth cleaned, getting your eyes checked, that sort of thing. Next slide, please. So these are some questions I'll kind of pose to people when they are in this place of choosing between them. As I mentioned, if you are a state retiree, another important thing to think about is that Medicare Advantage offering is sort of a you use it or you lose it benefit. So with in that case, I really always recommend just making sure you know exactly what they are offering. There are a couple things in the Medicare world that's like this, particularly with retiree benefits, where if you disenroll, it's very hard to re-enroll. But these are questions that will be true no matter where you're a retiree of. If you are traveling frequently, Original Medicare can be easier to use since they are going to be no network, so it doesn't matter where you are in the country. Medicare Advantage can be a little bit more regional, so sometimes you'll have issues getting routine care if you're someone who regularly spends a lot of time in a different state, different part of the country. That provider choice piece is huge. We see a lot of times things going in and out of network. If you are somebody who is very much like, I need to keep these doctors, I don't want to have to change them if the network changes, that would be something that's good about Original Medicare. If you are a little bit more like, I'm okay if certain doctors need to change, that might not be as important to you. The specialist piece as well, sometimes it can be frustrating to need to get referrals through a Medicare Advantage plan. But if you are mostly seeing your primary care doctor, or you have got some specialists that you trust, they can communicate with the insurance plan, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal for you. And then I need to add this to the slide, but as I was saying before, how important is it for you to get coverage for routine dental and vision care? Do you have another way of paying for those? Do you want to save money for those? If you want to have an insurance plan that's covering them, Medicare Advantage is going to be a better choice for you. Next. So if you are already receiving Social Security benefits when you turn 65, this will be automatic. They're going to go ahead and put you in Parts A and B of Medicare. If you are still working at that time and you don't want that, then you'll need to contact them and say, I want to pause this. I am still covered by my employer. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But automatically, if you're already drawing the benefits, they will send you a card in the mail, and it will be your Original Medicare card. That is where you'll start. And then you can make other decisions based on what the things we're talking about today, and whether or not you're a state retiree, if you want to add prescription coverage, all those things happen after that Original Medicare card is in your hands. If you have not yet drawn Social Security, then you need to enroll with them. It will not be automatic. That is just either a call or you can do it online. Most offices are appointment only, so I would recommend calling first if you want to go in person. But that is going to be something that you need to make sure you're doing. We'll talk about the enrollment periods in a little bit, but there's a window in which you can do that. And just, you don't want to let that pass. There can be some issues down the line. And then just to reiterate, even if you are going to go with the state health benefit plan or a different Medicare Advantage plan, you got to start with Original Medicare. That's where everybody begins, and then add on from there. Next slide, please. So there are a bunch of different enrollment periods where you can either enroll for the first time in Medicare or make changes to it. There are a lot of little ones that don't come up as often. I'm going to focus on the ones that will probably affect y'all the most. Next slide, please. This first one is that window I was talking about where you initially enroll in Medicare. That's automatic if you're already drawing Social Security. If not, that window will start 3 months before the month of your 65th birthday. you'll have the month of your birthday, and then it ends 3 months after. So 7-month window, any time in there is going to be fine for getting you started. I would recommend those 3 months prior. That way it'll start on the first day of the month that you turn 65. But there's no penalty if you do it that month of or a month after. You just may have some uncovered time if you aren't still covered through a different employer plan. Then the fall open enrollment period is what is coming up here, starting October 15th. That one is every year. That is not that is not a time that you can enroll in Medicare for the first time. So for that is for people already in both parts A and B of Medicare, and different plans will make changes from year to year. They might stop covering a drug that you needed, or maybe they'll raise the prices of it. Or sometimes it's a good thing, like different plan will add a benefit that you think would be really beneficial for you. So that is the time to kind of take a look at everything, see what you are, I will get to working past 65, I promise. So that is going to be just a good time to review everything, make sure it looks good. If you like what you have and nothing's changing, you can ignore that time. You are just going to be getting a lot of advertising no matter what. That's not really a way to turn that one off. So feel free to ignore that if you have already done what you need to do. I believe last year for state retirees, there was an active enrollment where even if you did like what you had, you needed to sort of say, I want to keep it. I'm not sure if y'all are going to be doing that again or not, but keep an eye out for that. I'm sure some people on this webinar do know. Then the last one I wanted to touch on, general enrollment period. That is the first 3 months of the new year. That is if anybody is in a situation where they miss their initial enrollment and then they are needing to sign up for the first time. That is going to be when they can make that choice. And signing up January 1st, you'll have coverage February 1st, February, March 1st, etc. You'll always have it the first of the month after you enroll, unless you are doing it prior to your 65th birthday, then it will start first of the month that you turn 65. Next slide, please. So some late enrollment penalties are really important to know about because these are very, very difficult to get rid of if you do end up with one. Essentially, these are if you could have had Medicare and you didn't have other coverage, they will tack these on. So it'll usually be a percentage of the monthly premium for every month or every year that you were uncovered and could have. It is super important too, if you're not sure if you should enroll, just ask somebody, particularly if you ask your HR department or somebody who works for the federal government. Both of those agencies, if they give you incorrect information, you can appeal for a special enrollment period if you were given misleading information. So asking will protect yourself. You will probably get the right answer. Even if you don't, that will be sort of like an insurance that you can go back and correct this if it was an error. Next slide, please. So yes, the still working at 65, super important because a lot of people will hear about those late enrollment penalties and get anxious that they did something wrong if they are still employed past then. There is no penalty for deferring Medicare if you have been covered by your employer. We tend to tell people it makes sense to go ahead and sign up for Part A of Medicare when you turn 65. Just there's no premium for that. It gives you an extra payer if you are in the hospital, but no, it's not a requirement. There's no penalty for not doing that. And then Part B is the piece that it makes a lot of sense to defer that if you are still working, just because you're kind of duplicating your coverage in a lot of ways. I think I might have one, maybe next slide. Yes, I did that. So this is it might not apply to very many of y'all, but if any of y'all are working for a smaller employer that has less than 20 employees on their insurance, if you go ahead and sign up for Medicare, Medicare will become primary. It makes a little more sense if it's a really small employer to go ahead and get on Medicare. Still don't have to, there's not a penalty for it. If y'all are state of Georgia retirees, UGA, really any larger, more than 20 employees on the health insurance plan, Medicare would be secondary anyways. Totally fine to delay it. You will have that same window right after when you're both 65 and the first month that you don't have that insurance anymore. you've got a window to sign up just like you were turning 65. The only difference is there is a form that Social Security will ask your employer for that says, show when this person was covered. It's a pretty quick process, so do not worry if you're past 65. As long as you've got coverage, you are good to go. Next slide, please. So to talk a little bit about what these things cost, this changes from year to year with, I know the state health benefit plan will sometimes have additional premiums. I am not sure about those costs currently, but what I'm talking about here is just general costs for Medicare. Hard to get around these unless you qualify for Medicaid. If you or your spouse have at least 10 years of work history, then there will be no premium for Part A, which is great. The people who do have to pay a premium for Part A, it's pretty high. It's like $500 a month range. So it is great that it's free if you have been paying into Social Security. The piece that most people think of as the Medicare premium, it's what most people do have to pay, is that Part B. It is $185 this year. So that is adjusted every year. Usually it goes up a little bit. Sometimes it comes down. It's something that Congress does. So we don't know until they release those numbers, which we don't have them yet. Should be coming up pretty soon. Usually we get them around when open enrollment starts. Then the Part D plans, if you're sticking with original Medicare, those tend to be fairly low. Sometimes it makes sense to pay more if you are taking a lot of really expensive prescriptions, but the cheapest one this year was $0. So a lot of them are a little less expensive month to month. It really depends on your prescriptions. Then the cost sharing looks different with original Medicare versus Medicare Advantage. With original Medicare, they pay 80% always. So 80% of something paid by original Medicare, then that 20% is left over. With a Medicare Advantage plan, you are often going to have a set copay for different things. So they may say a specialist is always going to be $30, or an MRI will always be this amount. So rather than dealing with that kind of percentage number, you know exactly like this will be the fee for X service. So that is, they can do that however they want. So some of them will do a co-insurance like a percentage, but a lot of them are going to just give you a number that you can plan for. Next slide, please. So this is the piece, how I was saying on that last slide that original Medicare is going to cover 80%. That is great when you get something more inexpensive done. That uncovered 20% might not be that much. It can be a lot in the event of a hospital stay. So people who have original Medicare tend to also want to pick up a Medigap plan. You'll also hear that called supplement. Medicare supplement gets a lot of things in Medicare will be called a couple different names, which doesn't help with the confusion of it. But the main difference between these plans and Advantage plans is that this tacks onto your original Medicare. It pays the difference, doesn't pay for additional services not covered by Medicare, but once Medicare pays, this plan will pay. So you got 2 premiums a month and then lower or no co-payments throughout the year. With an Advantage plan, you are still going to have co-pays. It just won't be that 20% that could become any number. There will be a maximum out of pocket like you would be familiar with through a regular insurance plan that you may have had while you were working. And Medigap plans do not work with Medicare Advantage. So it's kind of one or the other on that. Next slide, please. The tricky thing about a Medigap is that everything else with Medicare, you can look at it in open enrollment, you can change it up, you can decide, I don't like this, and then maybe you want to try it again later. Medigap is the one thing that you really want to make a decision about this, kind of know what you're doing when you retire. The first 6 months after you sign up for Medicare, that is when they just have to sell you one. So they don't get to ask you about your medical history, your family, any of that. They can ask you if you use tobacco and your age, but beyond that, they just got to sell it to you for whatever the best price is. Usually it's in like the low hundreds. Outside of that window, that is not the case. So it's very, very difficult to go back and purchase one of these later. So I always, when I'm meeting with someone who's new to Medicare, I want to make sure they at least understand this. It is totally fine if this is not the direction you want to go, but you just want to be making that decision with all the information you need, because this one's hard to go back and revisit. Next slide, please. This, y'all do not need to commit this to memory in any ways, but just so you kind of understand how the Medigap plans work a little bit, the different letters are what makes a plan different. Doesn't matter what company sells it, doesn't matter what price it is. If it is an A, it will cover these things. If it's a D, it'll cover those things. So that is one thing that's nice about them. For all the things that are complicated, you just want lowest cost for the one that you want if you decide to go with a Medigap plan. No reason to pay more for a specific company. All of them will do these things. Next slide, please. So there are some savings programs depending on your income, whether or not this impacts y'all or anybody that you know. This is another thing where the income limits change from year to year. This year, if your monthly income goes, I believe it's around $1,700 a month, then the state will pay the premium for you. If it goes below $1,300, then you will not have any cost shares with Medicare. That is a super important program since that 185 can get really expensive on a fixed income. Some states have made those limits more generous. Georgia's not one of them. So here, if your income is above those, this is not going to be an option for you, but still great to know about in case anyone in your community might be struggling with this and doesn't know about it. Next slide, please. The Extra Help program is a little bit more generous than Medicaid in terms of income limits. This is particularly with prescriptions. This year, I believe it is somewhere in the $1,900 a month range, where if your income is below that, then you might qualify to get some assistance with prescriptions. If your income is higher than that, but you're still having very high prescription costs, there are some other things that we can look at. And they have introduced a limit on prescription spending as of last year, which is $2,000 cap. It used to be $8,000, so that's a lot lower than it was. Still can be a lot of money. So if you do not qualify for this assistance, but are still struggling with that, sometimes there are other programs outside of Medicare we can look at. Next slide, please. So this is, I put ACCA up there, Athens Community Council on Aging, because that's where I work, but any SHIP office can help you with these things. They can assist you with enrolling in Medicare. They can help you make changes, apply for those savings programs I talked about. If you are having an issue with you're already in a plan and they are denying something you think that you need, we can help you appeal that. And in general, I have some clients who will just kind of show me stuff they've gotten in the mail and be like, is this important? Because it's just so misleading and confusing, and there is kind of no bad question with Medicare. Asking is always better than being confused. So I will have my contact information at the end of this presentation, but also there's going to be an option for you wherever you are in the state, and I'm happy to get you connected to them if you do want this kind of help, but you're not as the Athens area. Next slide, please. There are some other resources that can be really helpful. These drug manufacturer programs, sort of what I was alluding to earlier, where if you're a little bit over the limit for prescription assistance, sometimes there are programs that will discount the cost of prescriptions if you can show they're a particularly high percentage of your income is needing to be spent on a specific prescription. We can help you all navigate that kind of thing. The Senior Medicare Patrol is the sort of sister program to SHIP that is focused on if you are encountering any kind of fraud or abuse. And then the 1-800-Medicare and Medicare.gov, those are your best bets if you want help from the Medicare program directly. Basically everywhere else online is going to have some kind of advertising component to it. So if you're looking online, either information from the state health benefit plan or Medicare.gov will be your best bets. Any of those they'll have names like Medicare Navigator, Medicare Support Line. All of those are going to be insurance brokers working on a commission. So they're not scams. It's just good to know kind of what the incentive structure is there. Next slide, please. So this is my contact information. I think on the next slide, I also have the number for the Atlanta call center where they will route you to your local person. You can also feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call and I'll just give you the direct contact for whoever is in your region. It is a volunteer-based program as well, so we've got a lot of people who have also been through it. Some of them are either state retirees or UGA retirees, and they've kind of seen the retiree-specific concerns. So there are a lot of help available, and you don't have to do this alone. It can be very confusing. Do not feel like you are alone in that. Everybody thinks that, and that is why we exist, to help people with it. I think I have one more slide that shows the perfect. Yes. So there is that ACCA number again, and then that number below is going to be everybody in the state. They'll get you to the right spot. You just select option 4. I don't know if there is time for questions. I can answer some, but also I'm happy to just feel free to follow up with me either by email or by phone. I can always go over things again. If you take nothing else away from this, because I know I said a lot of different things, just know there is help available that is unbiased and local. I think you might be muted, Tony.
Thank you so much, Louise. Any questions for Louise? All right, thank you so very much.
Great. Thank y'all for having me. And feel free to reach out to the program if you ever need our assistance. And I hope you'll have a wonderful Saturday.
All right, then. Thank you again.
Bye.
All right, now we're going to have a discussion of legal matters that you need to consider as you approach retirement. And estate planning attorney is Cynthia Call. Cynthia, are you with us? You're muted, Cynthia.
I'm unmuted now and I'm here.
All right, fantastic. I've made you a co-host if you decide to share your screen. And I'm going to turn things over to you. You can introduce yourself and begin.
Okay. My name is Cynthia Call. I'm an attorney in Athens, Georgia, licensed to practice law in the state of Georgia. And I'm here today to talk to you about the benefits of forming an estate plan, a basic estate plan. And in summary, before I go into each point, there are 3 documents that are needed for a basic estate plan. That is a will or a trust. Number 2, a power of attorney. And 3, an advance directive for healthcare. And I'm going to go back to the first one, a last will and testament. That is a document that allows you to designate how your property will be distributed after you pass away. And the importance of having a last will and testament is that if you don't have one, the Georgia statutes will dictate where your property goes. And a lot of people would really not like the way that the state says your property goes if you don't have a will. I can give you one example of that. Say you're married and you have 2 children. Most people would want to leave their house to the spouse, and then after the spouse dies, to the children, for instance. Some people would want that. But if you don't have a will, 1/3 of that property will belong to your spouse, and 2/3 of it will be divided between your 2 children, and they will be co-owners. And so that causes lots of problems after someone has passed away. That's just one reason to have a last will and testament. I can tell you another one because I've just seen it recently. Somebody wrote their own will. You're allowed to do that. But they did not waive inventories and returns. And if you don't do that, you've got these bookkeeping responsibilities to the court. So a lawyer can waive the duty to file those inventories and returns with the court. So those are 2 reasons to have a last will and testament. You can change it at any time before you die. Some people have several wills over their lives as things change. You can name who is going to take care of your property and distribute it to your beneficiaries. You can designate your last wishes, cremation or burial. Those are just some of the reasons to have a last will and testament. The second document is a power of attorney, and that's where you designate a person that you trust to take control of your assets, write checks, pay bills, if necessary, sell your property for your benefit. And that I highly recommend that people have a power of attorney, because you can also name a conservator if a court ever decided that you needed one. And the typical kind of situation where people find a power of attorney useful is that, say, a spouse becomes, has dementia or Alzheimer's, and they are the only person on their accounts, and they can use this power of attorney with the bank or with at a real estate closing to pay bills from accounts and to sell real estate in order to raise money for a personal care home. That's just one of the many things that can be done with a power of attorney. The last document is an advance directive for healthcare, and this document is called lots of other things because it used to exist. A living will. Living wills don't exist in Georgia anymore. Medical power of attorney, that doesn't exist in Georgia anymore. For probably, it's been 7 or 8 years or more that we've had an advance directive for healthcare, and it combines the best features from both of those documents. But you can appoint an agent in the advance directive to make healthcare decisions for you only when you are unable to make those decisions yourself, and you're unable to communicate your wishes to medical professionals. And that's a document that you can provide to your healthcare providers. They usually will keep that on file for you, and they often will provide you with a form to fill out. You can do it at a lawyer's office with the lawyer's assistants, or you can do it on your own. It just depends. Some people are comfortable with that and some people are not. It's a long document, about eight pages. I want to go back to the last will and testament. This is something that that you would go over with a lawyer. But one of the things that we do in an estate planning conference to begin with is go over your assets and how they are titled, because not all assets are passed by a will, only probate assets. And it's easier to determine what a probate asset is by looking at what non-probate assets are. Non-probate assets are things like life insurance. That is a contract that says, I leave, if I die, I direct that these proceeds from the life insurance policy shall go to my spouse. That is not passed by a will. Like most things in the law, there's an exception to that too. If you had a beneficiary named on your life insurance policy and that person was deceased, then it would go to your estate and pass through your will. So going over how your assets are titled and discussing that with an attorney is a good idea, because everybody's situation is a little different. I'll give you one more example. A bank account that is solely in one person's name is an asset that would be passed by a will. It's a probate asset. But if it's a joint account, it is non-probate, and it goes to the joint owner after the first owner's deceased. I don't think I said this. The advance directive for healthcare, it does only apply if you are unable to communicate your wishes to medical professionals, but there are also conditions that you can check that will apply to your situation if you wish, and it's I'll just read them. If you are in a terminal condition, which means you have an incurable or irreversible condition that will result in your death in a relatively short period of time. And the second one is a state of permanent unconsciousness, which means I'm in an incurable or irreversible condition in which I'm not aware of myself or my environment, and I show no behavioral response to my environment. And then there's a phrase after that that says, my condition will be determined in writing by 2 physicians. So it's not a decision that's made, willy-nilly. It's a very considered and written decision by 2 physicians. So if you check those 2 options, you say, if I'm in these conditions, this is how I want to be treated. And there's an A, B, and C choice. And there's places where you can write in different things you want. I had somebody recently write in after they chose, I want, no, allow my natural death to occur. I do not want any medications, machines, or other medical procedures that in reasonable medical judgment could keep me alive but cannot cure me. I do not want to receive nutrition or fluids by tube or other medical means except as needed to provide pain medication. Well, I had somebody recently and there's a place where you can add statements, just anything, you could say, I want to listen to my favorite music, but she wanted to put in there that I want to be able to drink water if I'm able to. So there's all kinds of things you can do with this advanced directive. I will just open it up to any questions. I really haven't figured out how to read the chat, but if Tony if there are any questions from anybody, I'll be glad to take them.
Are there any questions for Cynthia?
Hi there. May I ask a question?
Yes.
GAE used to provide free talking to lawyers, and I have been in here for 30 years and I've never taken advantage of that. I'm just wondering if they still provide that.
There is an attorney referral program. I'm not sure how robust it is at this time, but you can contact the GAE legal office, Michael McGonigal, and he can direct you to the attorney referral service.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Cynthia, do you have anything to add?
I could add a few things that, instead of with the last will and testament, you can have a trust that is within the will. That's called a testamentary trust. And some people choose to have a living trust if they want to distribute money over time and have more control over the disposition of their assets. And that really can only be determined, after a consultation with a lawyer, whether one would be beneficial or not. Sometimes trusts are used in a will to distribute assets to minor children until they become 18 or 25 or whatever age that is considered desirable by the parents. And I will add this as well, a last will and testament is the only document outside of a court proceeding where you can designate a guardian for your children, your minor children, in the event that neither parent is around. And that often prompts new parents often will seek an attorney to draft a will because of that feature. Then they can be secure that they have a trusted person to serve as a parent. That's what a guardian does, is serves as a parent of their minor children if both parents are deceased. Another one of the benefits of the the advanced directive is you can also select It's a different type of guardian. It's a guardian of an adult person if a court decided that you needed a guardian to make decisions for you regarding personal medical care, where you live, and similar types of decisions. So there are lots of advantages to having a basic estate plan with a will or a trust, and a trust, an advance directive for healthcare, and a power of attorney.
Cynthia, could you, for lay people, define trust? And is a trust only for people with boatloads of money?
Well, a trust is a document. It depends, you know. A testamentary trust in a will only comes into being upon your death, whereas a living trust, as the name implies, is a document that is living while you're living. But a trust is like a shell. It's like a shell, and you put things in it. It doesn't have anything in it unless you title it in it. And that's actually one of the problems with the trust and one of the advantages of a will. The problem I have seen over the years with trust is that now sometimes they work perfectly well, you know, but because I've been practicing law for 30 years, I think I formed a trust the first or second year. It was a marital deduction trust, which was to take advantage of federal tax laws. It doesn't happen as much now because they've changed. But, and it required that all the property be titled in it in order to gain these tax benefits. 20 years later, when the people that formed that trust had died and their children came to see me, they didn't put real property in it that they purchased after they met with me. And so it ruined the whole purpose of the trust. And I've seen others but there were they had titled some of their assets in the trust. I take care of that as far as I'm able, you know, I know what their assets are, and we titled them at the time. But 5 years later, people purchase other property and they don't put it in the trust, or, you know, they don't want, it's kind of cumbersome to have a checkbook that says, I'm the trustee of the James W. Smith Trust, you know, so people often want title future checking accounts in them. And I've had one time when somebody had paid some other lawyer a lot of money to write some trusts for them, and they didn't have anything titled in the trust, nothing whatsoever. So going back to why a will has an advantage over a trust, in my opinion, I mean, trusts can work wonderfully well when they are dealt with correctly. But the nice thing about a will is if you obtain some property 5-10 years from now, or the day before you die, and you had a will from 20 years ago, that will pass all of the property you acquire after it's written. So you don't have to worry about titling it in anything except your name. So I kind of tend to lean towards wills. And that's because there's so much advertising about trust being very good, and they avoid probate. They might avoid probate, but for those people that didn't title assets in the trust, they formed a trust to avoid probate and then had to go through probate after all. So, and I don't think that probate doesn't have to be difficult, you know. Whether you have a will or a trust, it's possible for heirs to have disputes. So yes, people that have, to answer your other question, Tony, you don't have to have boatloads of money to need a trust. The most common situation I see is where just people have, you know, maybe a single parent has some minor children, Well, they want to leave the money to a trustee that will probably be the guardian of the children. If you know, if the spouse, both parents are deceased, put that money in a trust with a trustee managing it until the children get to be 18. So you don't really have to have lots and lots of money to need a trust. I can't hear you.
Let me make sure I've captured this. A trust is like a bag that you put things in,
Yes,
property, money, possessions. And when you die, the people you designate get that bag and they only get what's in that bag.
that's a good question. Really, you put the terms about how you want the money or assets to be dealt with in the trust. It's a very flexible document. You can say, when I die, this is what I want to have happen. It isn't, you will name the people that you want to be the beneficiaries. And
Okay.
how some people will divide it up over, say I want 1/3, my child to receive 1/3 at the age of 18. Before the age of 18, it'll say, the trustee can distribute assets for the benefit of the children, pay for their expenses, pay for education, until they're 18. And then at 18, they could say that they get 100%, the child or children gets 100% of the trust assets, and then the trust terminates.
Okay, I think a few of us are still a little confused over a trust, but we will take the understanding that you recommend a will over a trust because conditions can change after the trust is established, and the will cover all those changed conditions, but a trust will not unless you update it.
A will pass property that's acquired after the will is signed. But
Okay.
there are many, many different kinds of trusts, which is why it's, there are special needs trusts, there are residence trusts, that's why I like to concentrate on the will more than the trust, because we could talk for an hour about trust, But, and I don't want to say that trusts are bad to have, it's just that people often forget about the advantages of wills and think that the trust is superior. It really depends upon the situation of the individual.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other
You're welcome.
questions for Cynthia? Well, thank you so very much for
Thank you.
joining us today. We really appreciate your expertise. And do you want to include your contact information in the chat in case people want to?
Sure. Sure, I can do
Okay.
that. I'll try to do that. I can't get it to come. I will do that. If I can send chat to meeting group chat. Okay.
Okay. And Cynthia, you're located in Athens, is that correct?
Yes, I'm in Athens, Georgia. I'm in solo practice.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, and while Cynthia puts her information in the chat, we're going to turn now to Dr. Candice Jackson from the Teachers Retirement System, who is going to bring us a part of this seminar that we all look forward to, and that is Teachers Retirement System and retirement. Okay, and Candace, I believe you're still muted.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. What a great way to segue into our retirement portion, because when you look at retirement planning, there's some legalities that's involved that you need to consider as well. So we are very excited to follow behind the legal matters, and so that we can begin this presentation. I am Candace Jackson. I'm an outreach council manager at the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia. And so I've been with the state of Georgia for 40 years. So I'm saying that to say, when people are telling you it's time for you to retire, don't listen to the people, listen to your heart and decide when is the best time for you and your family. Also, I want to begin with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. And what it simply states is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this is what this is all about, is starting early on your retirement planning. So with this workshop, we'll talk about 3 different areas. The first thing is our retirement plan options. There are 7 options. So a lot of times people are confused because you have so many choices. And also we'll talk about creditable service, and what creditable service is part of our formula, and it will allow you to have more money in your retirement benefit. And finally, we will talk about beneficiary issues and what that means for you and your family. So the benefits of membership, the way we look at it, you deserve a great retirement benefit. And the best part about that is that this benefit is not tied to market performance. So everyone is very familiar with the great market crash. And so a lot of people lost their retirement savings, their livable savings, all of that was lost in that crash. But the good thing about TRS, your benefit, it is guaranteed for life. And if you choose a survivorship plan, then your loved ones will be protected for the rest of their lives as well. And all of this is based on the TRS formula, which we will go into a little bit later in the presentation. The first question that we receive, when am I eligible for retirement? Well, the first type of retirement we have is normal retirement. And what normal retirement is a retirement without a penalty. Don't have to worry about a penalty with a normal retirement, but you do have to have at least 30 years of creditable service regardless of your age, and 10 years of creditable service and age 60. So that's 2 ways that you can retire under a service retirement. Remember, 30 years, regardless of your age, and age 60 with 10 years. I often get the question, well, Candace, I'm 62, and I only have 12 years. Can I retire? Yes, as long as you have 10 years and age 60, because that age 60 is a magic number for us, and 30 years as well. And the second way is a disability retirement. Under a disability retirement, you have to have at least 10 years of creditable service and cannot perform your job. So we have a panel of 3 physicians who will look at your medical records and determine if you're eligible for a temporary disability or if you're going to go on a permanent disability. If you go on a temporary disability, we will have to review your medical records again after a certain period of time, and then you would have to be recertified. Okay. Now, some people just can't wait. They're just ready to go, and they are willing to take a monetary penalty to leave early. So if a member has at least 25 years of service, but less than 30, they can retire early or under the age of 60 with 25 years of service and have an active account. That account must be active. but there's that penalty that's applied. So what we look at in terms of a penalty, just say you're 52 years old and you have 25 years of service. Well, you're actually 5 years away from 30 years and 8 years away from the age requirement. So what we'll do is we'll look at the lesser of the two, and your benefit will be reduced 7% per year that you are away from 30. So in this example, that would be a 35% reduction of your benefits. And that's something you really want to consider because you put all of that time in to have it reduced. And there's ways that we can provide you an estimate to see how much that penalty will cost you. You'll just have to contact our office. And then the other part about that, you're not eligible for a cost of living adjustment until you would have reached a normal retirement, which would include the 30 years, regardless of your age, or age 60 with at least 10. So that's a permanent penalty and not eligible for a cost of living adjustment if you decide you want to go early. The second thing you have to decide too, now that you know that you're eligible, well, what are the best options for me and my loved ones? And at TRS, we have two different plan types. We have plans that will not leave a monthly benefit to a beneficiary, and we have plans that will leave a monthly benefit to a beneficiary. So you have to look at your circumstances and decide what is best for you and your family. So let's look at those non-survivorship plans. With a non-survivorship plan, this is a very good illustration. What we look at here, this is our member. In this bucket, you put your contributions and we apply interest every year. We take 6% of the gross salary to put in that bucket. Also, in the second bucket is what the employer puts in on our members' behalf, and that's around 20%. So what happens at TRS, we take the member's portion, the employer's portion, add them together and invest. So we end up with the money tree. And when I say we have a money tree, all that means is that that tree will not run out. You'll continue to receive that benefit for the rest of your life. And in fact, if something ever happened with that money tree, the state of Georgia by law is required to pay that benefit. So that's an awesome thing. But look at this, because here, this is your bucket and you are guaranteed everything you put in plus interest. Now this money over here, that's a different story. So TRS Plan A Maximum and Plan B Option 1. These two are our non-survivorship plans. What happens here is under the maximum plan, that's the largest amount of money that you can receive from our system. And you'll get to see the formula a little bit later, but this is the maximum amount that you can receive. So what happens, we're looking at your bucket of money. So just say you're getting $3,000 a month in a monthly benefit. Well, we're taking that money, that $3,000 out of your bucket. So it will deplete everything that you put in within 2 to 4 years. All that time you've worked, it's gone in 2 to 4 years. What happens here is that you will get it for the rest of your life. However, if something were to happen to our member untimely and there's still money left in that bucket, it would be paid in a lump sum to the primary beneficiary. So that's why you're guaranteed everything that you put in. So whether you receive it in a benefit or it's paid out in a lump sum. But this is a lifetime benefit for our members. We also have Plan B Option 1. And under Plan B Option 1, what happens here is you take a slight reduction in your benefit, but we're not taking that full $3,000 out. We're only taking 20% of that amount out each month. So it extends the time that that money is in your bucket 10 to 14 years. But if something happens untimely, just say after 6 years, there's still money left and it's paid out in a lump sum to a primary beneficiary. Now, what's important to know here is that it is not considered a survivorship plan. So if there is a surviving spouse who's under your state health benefit plan, then if that surviving spouse remarry, the spouse and the dependents under that coverage will be lost. They will lose that health insurance coverage. So that's something to think about because it's not considered a survivorship option. So let's talk about the survivorship options. And this is an illustration here just showing the more money you leave, the less money that you would bring home in a benefit, only because we would have to pay you for the rest of your life and then them for the rest of their lives. So it costs you a little bit. So we'll talk about the first two, Plan B option 2 and 3. Under Plan B option 2 and 3, well, option 2 here, this is a reduced benefit from the maximum plan. But what happens is that, just say that reduced benefit went to $2,500. If something were to happen to our member, then their primary beneficiary would receive the same $2,500 for the rest of their lives. Option 2 is 100% payout. Option 3, what that is a reduced benefit from the maximum plan. However, the member received that more money up front, but in the event something happens to them, the primary beneficiary would receive 50% lifetime benefit. So you're looking at 100% or 50%. And these reductions are based on our member's age and the beneficiary's age at retirement. So that's 100% and 50%. And with those 100% and 50% options, we have what we call a pop-up. And under a pop-up, you could only have one primary beneficiary. So in the event that primary beneficiary predeceased you, you're able to pop back up to the maximum plan amount. So if you got a reduction to $2,500 to choose option 2, if something happens to your primary beneficiary, you can pick it back up and go back to the $3,000 a month. And you'll see it better in the example I'll show you. But these are pop-up options with 100% and a 50% payout, but you can only have one primary beneficiary. And the last option, Plan B option 4, where you can pretty much decide if you want to leave a dollar amount or a percentage. And that amount would be reduced based on the beneficiary's age and the amount elected. And one of the things that I do tell members, go ahead and do a budget so your family and yourself will know what you will need in the event you retire, if something were to happen to you, or if something were to happen to your primary beneficiary. It's important to have a budget so that you'll know if you're making an option, what they would need in retirement. Also, you can use this option. It's a minimum benefit that you can leave to a beneficiary. So just say you want to leave them $200 a month. You can do that. And this will avoid the loss of that state health benefit plan if that spouse remarries. It's an option for that because it's considered a retirement plan. So we get a lot of questions. What's the best option for me? And I have to tell them, you have to sit with your family and decide what is the best option for you and your family. You can't go by what's popular. You have to go by your individual situation. So here's a question. Mary has no dependents and no one depends on her income. What would be the best option for Mary? I would say the maximum plan because there's no one depending on her income. Second question, Sue has a spouse that has no savings and will not receive a pension or Social Security benefits and who has lousy lotto luck. What would be the best option for Sue? She may want to do Plan B option 2 to leave that 100% payout because he's going to need as much as he can get. So Sue will perhaps make a different choice. And then finally, Tom has a spouse who will be receiving a pension and Social Security benefits, but the amount is $500 per month, short of meeting her income replacement needs if Tom dies first. Well, in this case, it may be simply Plan B option 4, where you can specify the $500 a month. So in all of these scenarios, these are 3 different people who have to make 3 different choices, perhaps. And so when you look at your choice, make sure it fits you and your family. Our most popular choice is our maximum plan, but if something happens to that member and that benefit stops, that may not have been the right choice for the family, but it might have been the right choice for the member. So talk to your family about what their needs are. And then in addition to choosing one of the 7 options, you can ask for a PLOP, which is a partial lump sum option plan. It allows you to take a portion of your retirement off the top. The only thing is, if you were getting that $3,000 a month, that would be your minimum amount. Your maximum would be 3 times the 36 months. Also, this monthly benefit is permanently reduced based on the PLOP amount, your age, and the option that you elected. Now, if you get a direct payment of this PLOP, that check comes with your first retirement check, then we're going to have to apply taxes to it. 20% federal, 5% state. If you're not, 59.5 additional penalties. So you really, really want to think about that PLOP. And also, PLOP can be rolled over in whole or in part to another qualified retirement plan to avoid the taxation. But there again, if it's in the market, is it safe? Because this is affecting your lifetime benefits. And then we do cost of living adjustments, January and July, 1.5% January, 1.5% July. And you may receive this cost of living adjustment, and it's based on the consumer price index, which is inflation. And so depending on when you retire, when you would receive your first COLA. And this is basically an example of a benefit estimate. If members want to get a good idea, I suggest you do this 5 years out and definitely 2 years out so that you can see what your benefits will be. And this is typically what members are looking at, these options, because you have those 7 to choose from. Here, the primary beneficiary does not receive anything. But here it's showing the 100%, the 50%. And also Plan B option 4 is showing 500. So it's a very small reduction from the maximum plan to make sure that they receive their health insurance coverage. But even here under the pop-up, it's slightly lower than option 2, but in the event the primary beneficiary predeceased our member, then our member can pop up and go back to the 3,500. These are gross benefit amounts. With the gross benefit amounts, we're taking out federal tax, state tax, and the health insurance. And once you're 62, the first $35,000 in pension income is exempt from state taxes. And once you reach the age of 65, then what happens here is that it goes up to 65,000. And that's a great incentive to keep you in Georgia. Okay. So our recommendations on that, start thinking about what option is best for you and your family. I know that there are 7, and I had to go through them pretty quickly, high level, but you really have to start thinking about what option is best for you and your family. You can go to our website and generate your own benefit estimate. It's really easy, especially if you're 5 years out. If you're not 5 years out, we do have a pension calculator where you can just throw in some numbers to have an idea of what you can receive. And so you can also ask us to send you one. We will, if you are within 5 years of retirement, we can mail you one. And I definitely recommend a one-on-one counseling session if you are within 2 years of retirement, and you can do it in our Atlanta office, Macon office, and also, like I said, we can do FaceTime and we can do Microsoft Teams. So that would help you with that. But that's our recommendations. Also, once you receive your benefit estimate, what you would need to do is look at what the tax liability will be in terms of your federal tax, state tax. Live off of that for 3 to 6 months. If you can live off that benefit from 3 to 6 months, then you're in good shape. So that is my recommendation for that. Now, in order to look at that formula, which is really simple, because we're looking at salary for 24 months, average salary of 24 months, and we're also looking at creditable service. So for each year you work, that's 2%. If you have 30 years, we're going to multiply by 2. That's going to be 60%. If you have 25 years, that's going to be 50%. If you have those 10 years and 60, it's going to be 20%. So you want to look at maximizing your benefit by looking at creditable service. And there's 3 ways that you can earn it. That's membership, unused sick leave, and purchase service. Membership service is what you're doing when you go to work every day. You're working at least half-time or more, then you're eligible to be a member of Teachers Retirement. And we award our service in 1-month increments based on fiscal year. So when we look at a fiscal year, we look at July through June. And if you complete 9 months during that fiscal year, then you are awarded 1 year of service credit. So whether you're a 12-month, 8-month, 9-month, you are still in that fiscal year can be awarded 1 year of service credit if you obtain 9 months. If it's an 8-month faculty person, 8 months will give them the year if they do the 2 semesters. The second way is unused sick leave. Each of your covered, your TRS covered employers must certify your sick leave. So if you've worked somewhere else, it's so important to go ahead and get that in your account so that when you're ready for retirement, they don't have to go to the archives and look for it. Now, the maximum annual accumulation is 1 1/4 day of sick leave per month. So depending on the contract type would be the maximum amount of service. So just say you're a 12-month contract, then that's going to be a maximum of 15 days per year. You're under that 12-month contract. What happens also is that this credit is awarded retroactively after retirement. And so that's another reason why it's important to go ahead and get your sick leave form certified from your former employers, because we're going to give you your sick leave. We're going to give you your retirement benefit without the sick leave. And then we're going to send you a supplemental with the sick leave, and the second month should have the sick leave merged together. So imagine you're ready to retire, you're looking at a penalty without that sick leave, and so you're getting that reduced amount and you're waiting on that supplemental. Well, you've had to go to Fulton County, but they had to go to archives. They don't have it ready yet. Or another county, they don't have it ready yet for us to give you that supplemental right away. And so it kind of delays getting your regular retirement. So that's why it's so important to go ahead and get your sick leave certified, because once you terminate employment, your current employer will certify your sick leave. They can't do it prior. So as soon as they send us that sick leave, we can get to work because we have the prior sick leave forms already in your account. And so there's times when we have missing sick leave records, and then we just do an averaging. So for example, if you were in Clark County, worked 5 years and they did not have records, but you also worked in Gwinnett County and they had records. And when we did an averaging of the records, it averaged 8 days a year. So for those 5 missing years, we're going to apply the 8 days per year. That's the only fair way to do it. And this is just unused sick leave chart. You have to have at least 60 days, because if you only have 59 or less, then there's no service credit added. And the last thing you can do is TRS service purchases. And so just try to think about things that you may have done from your past, because if you worked out of state, if you worked in a TRS covered position, took your money out, study leave, military service, we have all of that service listed in our members guide. So think hard about what you may be able to purchase. Now, our most popular service to purchase is our TRS withdrawn service. That's if a member withdrew, was working in a TRS covered position, withdrew the money out, and left. Okay. So this is our least expensive service to repurchase. So if the member comes back to work for 3 years, once they complete that 3 years, they can purchase the withdrawn service. Or if they taught out of state, they can purchase up to 10 years of service. So look at our members guide and see what you may or may not be eligible to purchase, and then get an estimate to see how long it will take for you to recoup your money. And if it's not going to take that long to recoup your money, then you're in good shape. So you have to decide to buy or not to buy, because it will allow you to retire earlier and avoid an early retirement penalty. It also increases your retirement benefit, because what we're looking at, your years of service. For every year, it's a 2% multiplier. So it increases your benefit by 2%. And that purchase price increase each month. So you want to look at what that will cost you. So our recommendations: send the sick leave certification form to your former employers. Have it in your account. Review your work history and see if there's anything that you may be able to purchase. You're not obligated to purchase it. You know, that's just something you want to look at. And don't end up delaying your retirement by waiting too long to start the paperwork. If you're starting your paperwork to get your out-of-state service certified and you're submitting your retirement application, it could take a while, and it would really delay the retirement. So the last thing that we will talk about will be TRS beneficiary issues. This is a subject that's very close to my heart, because I was here during COVID and we lost a lot of our members. And one of the things that we realized is that people had not changed their beneficiaries. They still had their parents. They still had their ex-spouses, their ex-partners, their ex-friends and siblings. So you want to make sure that this information is completed in active service and in retirement. So we're going to talk about primary versus secondary. We're also going to talk about death in active service, death and divorce in retirement, and our recommendations. TRS primary versus secondary. The primary beneficiary is pretty much the person that will receive a monthly benefit in the event something should happen to you. So we have to make sure that our primary beneficiary and secondary understand what would be their benefit if something happened to you. But that primary one is the one that will receive your monthly benefit. The secondary beneficiary is there only just in case there's still money left in your bucket, because remember, you're guaranteed everything plus interest. So if there's a death in active service, if you're not vested, that means under 10 years of service, the primary beneficiary would just receive what's in your bucket because you didn't vest into our system. But if you have at least 10 years of creditable service, then that primary beneficiary will have two choices. They will be able to get option 2, which is the 100% payout, or they can get everything in your bucket. And I must say this example of why it's important to talk to your family, because I did have a young man come into my office when I was doing counseling, and his mother had passed away unexpectedly, and he was the primary beneficiary. He's like 20 years old. So he came into the office alone. And so she had about $150,000 in the annuity account. So just imagine he has a choice of option 2, getting 100% payout for the rest of his life, or he could get the $150,000. That young man wanted the $150,000. That's just what he wanted. And we as counselors could not at the time, well, we can't do it anyway, to tell anybody what they can do or what they should do. We can't do that, but it was no way I could let that young man walk out with that $150,000. And I've kept in touch with him, and he's gotten that $150,000 back 2 times, and he will continue to receive that monthly check each month. So it's important to talk to your family about, because when you're dealing with grief, it's hard to make some decisions. But if it's all worked out for you, it makes it so much better for your loved one. And if no surviving primary beneficiary, then the secondary, this is the only exception where a secondary get a monthly benefit. Oh, shoot, on low power mode. And I got it plugged in. All right, that's the only able to do that. Okay, so you want to talk to them. And let me move on. And if you select, if there's a death and divorce, wait a minute, I'm sorry. If there's a death and divorce and retirement, if you select one of our survivorship options and have only one primary beneficiary, if that beneficiary dies before you, you can change your beneficiary and or plan, but not to the maximum plan, because you had an opportunity to elect a pop-up. And if your spouse is the beneficiary and a divorce occurs, you can change beneficiary and or plan. And if you select a new beneficiary or a new option, your benefit will be recalculated. But if you have multiple beneficiaries, like your spouse, or your 2 children, you can do that. And if any beneficiary dies before you, you cannot change plans or remaining beneficiaries, and the benefit percentages are not adjusted. So if you have 50% for the spouse, 25 for one child, 25 for another child, something happens to the spouse, they'll continue with the 25%. However, if there's a divorce, you may remove the divorced spouse as beneficiary, and you can reallocate the benefit to the remaining beneficiary. So you can go from the 25-50 to 50-50. And your benefit will always be recalculated, and it'll be less than what you were getting in a monthly benefit. And the other beneficiary facts, beneficiaries are based solely on the beneficiary information on file at TRS. So if you have a will, you have a trust, you have all of that, it does not matter with your TRS. We're going to use what's on file. So if you have an ex-spouse on there, then that's who's going to get the money. It's okay to designate minor children. Just say you're in active service, something happens to you, you have your sister as your beneficiary, and something happens to you, she starts getting the benefit because you know she's going to take care of your minor children. Well, what happens if something happens to her? So you may want to consider designating your minor children, and so have a will or trust naming them as legal guardians. So once the child turns 18, they can take over the check themselves. Those are things that you consider. And so our recommendations: review your current beneficiaries. Are they correct and up to date? Are your distribution percentages at the level that you want? And are your primary and secondary beneficiaries different? And is your current beneficiary an estate? So you may want to just look at that let that be an assignment for you. Wherever you are, retired, wherever, just check. Make sure you have the right beneficiaries in your account, and you can do those online. Now, if you just don't have anybody that you can think of that you can name as your beneficiary, I need you to write this down. Candace with an I Jackson. No, seriously, guys. There should be someone that you know would benefit in the event something should happen to you. Now that pretty much wraps it up because I wanted to leave a little time for questions, but you can always visit our website, log into your account, schedule a one-on-one counseling session because you'll have your numbers will be what we will discuss, so that you'll understand what you can receive in retirement and live off of that 3 to 6 months before you retire, just to make sure. Consider hiring a licensed financial planner for individual advice. I did hear someone say earlier with the council that look at certified financial planners that does not base their services on commission, because they're going to try to get as much for them as they are for you. So think about that. And then your payments are direct deposited monthly in your account. So as you travel, you'll be able to receive your check and not have to worry about it. So start getting excited. You're almost there. This is not an event, it's a process. And that process involves planning. And this platform has been very informative today because it's talking about your retirement planning. You have that service with NEA. You know, you have a lot of benefits to certain memberships, and then you're having resources and legal information provided to you. So I say good luck with your retirement, and I can take questions. You have to excuse me, I'm using 2 computers.
Any questions for Candace? And remember to keep your questions general. If you have a question specifically about your situation, then you need to make an appointment with TRS. And of course, you can do that virtually. You can have a counseling session virtually. So any questions about TRS?
Wow, y'all got a lot of information today, and the main thing is to start planning. Don't just start planning for next year. Start planning for in the future, and you can rest assured that you'll be in a good position to retire effectively. And so industry standards are saying that you need 3 streams of income in retirement. If you are going to have your pension, you're going to have Social Security. Where's that third stream coming from? So this is your planning process now, so that you can begin to think about those things so that you will have a successful retirement. And thank you for your time, and thanks for having us here. I know it's very quick, but we do have a copy of our presentation on our website. So visit our website and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for all that wonderful information. We really appreciate it. So now we're going to learn a little bit more about how your money gets in your bucket with TRS. And we're going to have a segment presented by GAE Retired's TRS monitor, Lisa Underwood. So Lisa, are you ready? I have your slides queued up.
Yes.
All right, let me share. All righty, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Underwood, and I am the TRS monitor for GAE Retired. I attend virtually. I attend our TRS board meetings every other month, and then I write up a report. about what all is happening with TRS and how our TRS fund is doing, how our money is growing. Okay, and if you have not already done so, you need to go to the trsga.com website and create a My TRS account. There is great information there. There are lots of podcasts, videos, webinars. You can, as was mentioned by Dr. Jackson, there's a pension calculator so you can get an estimate of what your retirement benefit will be. And I just really encourage everyone to do that. Most of the people who are retired have already set up their My TRS, but only about 50% of our active members have an account. So even if you're, just a few years in, they have great information to help active members in their profession and in their planning. Okay, next slide. Yes, and there it is, My TRS. Okay. Here we go. As of June 2025, our TRS fund had $114 billion in assets, which is an all-time high. This is great, exciting news. This is the highest ever. In June of 2016, the account was $65.6 billion. So we have had a 78% increase in the fund over the last 10 years. So that shows you that our retirement is very secure. Dr. Jackson, when she was doing her presentation, said that no matter what the economy does, if we have a crash, market crash, your pension is safe. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and these are just some numbers that remain pretty stable from year to year. As of July 1st, 2025, we had service retirees, about 139,863 members who are retired. The average monthly benefit is $3,707. Okay, and that is the average over all the people who are retired. We have some people who just retired in May who are just starting out their retirement. We have other people, we have a number of retirees who are over 100 years old. So they have been retired for many decades. So that average benefit is from people who just retired to people who have been retired and gotten those raises for decades. My retirement check is not 3,700 yet, but it will be. I've only been retired 3 years. Average service credit is about 25 and a half years. And that is about what I had, was 25 and a half years, because I did turn 60. Average age at retirement is 60. The average age of all of our retirees calculates up to 72. As I said, we have a number of retirees who are more than 100 years old. We have a lot of retirees who started the profession when they were 22 years old and they could retire at 52. So the average age of all of our retirees is 72. Our total benefits payroll is $557 million. So the annual outgo is $6.5 billion. So you see we've got $114 billion in the TRS fund, and we are spending 6.5 per year for retirement checks. Again, that is a very, very healthy balance. All right, next slide, please. All right. And I don't know, I tried to make this more clear, but it didn't do right. Okay, this is just the rolling net position of the numbers I gave you a few minutes ago. So you can see that over 10 years, our TRS fund went from $65.6 billion all the way up to the $114 billion currently, which is a terrific increase. We have one of the most stable retirement funds in the nation. Next slide, please. Okay, and then there's, yes. Okay, and then that's what I just said. All right, next slide. Okay, so now we're going to discuss the difference between a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, and this will compare the two different types of pension plans, the defined benefit versus the defined contribution. Okay, next slide, please.
All right, here's our friend the video. Let's hope it plays.
Yes, sometimes it does, sometimes, yes.
It took us to the article, but it didn't take us to the video. So we'll move on.
Okay, that's fine. And the video is very short. It's like a minute and a half. And basically we cover the same information anyway. So we could go to the next slide, please.
Okay, what are you seeing?
I just see the little thing that says pension plan that's gonna have the video that didn't play.
Okay, hold on a moment. Okay, you should see red and purple.
I don't see that.
It's loading at this point.
Oh,
There
it
you
goes,
go.
There it goes. Yes, okay.
Okay,
Okay, our TRS retirement benefit is a defined benefit. That means that our retirement income stream is guaranteed for life. A defined contribution is going to be like if you have a 401(b) or you have VALIC or some other Merrill Lynch or something. That's a defined contribution. That income is not guaranteed for life. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, with the defined benefit on your pay stub where you work, the employer is responsible for investing your TRS contributions, but you can see that place where it has your TRS that you contribute, and it has that on your pay stub. And that gets automatically taken out of your paycheck, and then your school district puts that money in TRS for you. With the defined contribution, that's like I said, your 401(b) or VALIC or some other plan. You are responsible for investing the contributions. You meet with your VALIC representative and say, I want you to do $100 a month or $400 a month, and you decide how much to contribute, and you are responsible for investing. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, with the defined benefit, your amount of retirement income is known. We know what we're going to have. When we've had our very rocky stock market the last few years, we've had the ups and downs. If you do have like a 401(b), you're kind of for a while there, you're scared to open it and look at it because mine took a bad hit, went down. Every time the stock market went down, it went down. But my TRS paycheck never changed. It did not go down. So no matter what the economy does, my income stream, your income stream is known. You know what it's going to be. All right. And if you've got that 401(k), you do not know. Okay. You just, you don't know what will happen with the stock market. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. With the defined benefit, we do, as Dr. Jackson said, you have inflation protection and you have survivor benefits built in. And that's all taken care of so that you know exactly what you have and what you will have and where your money will go if you die. With your defined contribution, that is not protected against inflation. You do not have a built-in survivor benefit. You have to make these decisions. You have to set all of this up yourself. It is not done for you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the wonderful thing about the defined benefit plan, this is a great recruitment tool into the most noble profession. I did not start my career until I was 36 years old. And I had all these relatives who were in education, great aunts, and, all different relatives. And then as I saw them retiring, they were traveling and doing all these fun things and going to the beach because they had a definite benefit. And I was looking at my 401k at work and just thinking, I kind of wanted to be a teacher anyway, but that gave me incentive to go ahead and make the change. Our retirement plan also helps keep teachers in the profession. We get to the point sometimes where we might have that really bad year, or we have that class that drove us crazy, or that one student. And if you will go think about, if you can do this one more year, you can get yourself motivated. And that's why I suggest all of our active members, please go create a MyTRS so that you can go and do your pension calculator and say, oh, well, little Johnny wasn't that bad. I could do this, for a few more years. And it helps you stay in the profession. And then we can retire with dignity and honor. We know what our income will be. It's not going to change. It's not going to go away. So that enables us to make plans and have a really terrific retirement. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what is the TRS formula? So we can, go to the next slide, please. Okay, and this is something else that Dr. Jackson went over with us. Your normal retirement is going to be 30 years of credible service, regardless of age. I have an acquaintance of mine who started in the profession at the age of 18 as a paraprofessional and worked as a para all through college. And so he had his 30 years of credible service at the age of 48. I'm jealous. Okay. Or you have to have at least 10 years of credible service and be at least age 60. I told you that I came into the profession late. I was 36 years old. So by the time I was 61, I had 25 years, but I didn't have to have 30. I could go ahead and retire then because I was 60. All right, next slide, please. Okay, and here's the formula. So you take your years of credible service times 2% and multiply by the highest average salary, and then that gives you your maximum benefit. Okay, you do pay taxes, and your health coverage also comes out of this check, but that just kind of gives you an idea. So if you are the person that has 30 years times 2% is going to be 60% of your highest average salary. That gives you an idea of what you will earn in retirement. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so for 30 years times 2%, if your highest income was 50,000 per year, then 60% of 50,000 would be 30,000 per year, or 2,500 per month. So you take the years of credible service times 2% times highest average salary, and that gives you your maximum benefit. Now, I will tell you that you look at that and think, oh, I was making 50,000 a year, and now I'm going to go down to 30,000 a year. Well, one thing to consider when you retire, you no longer contribute to TRS, so you don't have that chunk of money coming out of your check. You no longer contribute to Social Security, so you don't have that chunk coming out of your check. So the hit is not as bad as you think it might be, especially if you have a little 401k or something in there to add a little bit of money if you need it. All right, next slide, please. Okay, if you have 40 years of credible service, you can retire with 80% of your salary. So if you had 60,000 a year was your highest salary, then 80% of 60,000 would be 48,000 per year or $4,000 per month. And you really, after 40 years, it doesn't go. Like if you work 45 years, it doesn't go to 90%. 80% is the highest you can go. So if you're one of those people who keeps on working after 40 years, it's not going to go higher than 80%. Okay, next slide, please. And the unused sick leave credit, and I love this one. My husband and I both really benefited from the unused sick leave credit. As I said, I had 25 years when I retired, but I had almost 2 years of sick leave. I think I was only like 1 month short of 2 years. My husband had 2 years of sick leave, so he had 30 years, but he receives pay for 32 years. And mine is almost 27 years because of those unused sick leave credits. And that's a really good motivation for people when you just are having that, like, emotional sick day that you're too tired to go to work that day. Just think about building that time up because it does apply towards your retirement, and that makes a big difference. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, House Bill 109 wanted to change this legislation for people who were employed after July 1st, 2020. They wanted to take away the benefit and not let those teachers be able to accumulate sick leave and apply it towards retirement. That would have been a terrible law because that gives people no motivation whatsoever to save their sick days. Because you're going to have those people say, well, I don't get anything for it. I'm going to lose it. So I'm just going to take all my days. And we all know that our students need our teachers to be in the building. They need our paras, all of the people, the counselors, we need to be in the school building. So that did not pass, fortunately. Next slide, please. And I just saw questions that I thought we could only get a max of 70% for 35 years. Yes, you can get 80% for 40 years. Yes, you can, but it doesn't go past that. Okay, one of our wonderful parts of our retirement benefit is our cost of living increases 1.5% awarded every January and every July. And this really helps a lot. Those of you who have been in the profession for a while, I think after we had that bad stock market and economy problem and the real estate crash about 2008, I didn't get another raise because, I didn't get a raise for like 8 years after that. I had my aunt retired about that time and I made more money than she did when she retired. But during that 8 years that I got no raises because I was topped out at I was topped out on the salary schedule. She kept getting those raises every year as her income in retirement passed my active working income. So those raises really do make a big difference. Okay, next slide. Okay, and then how is TRS funded? Okay, go ahead to the next slide, please. Okay, bucket one, and we heard Dr. Jackson mention the bucket. That's the bucket. That's the money that you put in. That's the piece that you see on your pay stub. That money that is taken out of your check for TRS. That is your contribution. Okay, bucket two is the employer contribution, and you can see that there is more money in the employer bucket than there is in your bucket. Okay, and then the rest of bucket two is the investments, and that is how the money in the TRS fund is invested. And that is where the really big growth in our pension comes from, is the investments. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, and this is a really interesting chart to me. You can have a person who retired like in June 2010 at the age of 59. Over that person's career, they contributed about $46,000 to the TRS fund. Over that same time, that employer contributed about 93,000 because the employer contributes more for your TRS than you do. But then that investment income turns into about 231,000 over this period of time since the teacher retired in 2010. Okay, so the benefits that this teacher received from 2010 to now is about $370,000. That teacher only put in $46,000 over the entire career and has already drawn a lot more than the teacher put in. Okay, next, yes. Okay, next slide then. Okay, so you can see our average employee rate is about 6% of your income, and that's what you have taken out of your salary to be contributed to your TRS fund. The employer rate, you can see over the last decade has continually increased and is almost 20% as of 2022. I think on the next slide, it has one more year on there. Yes, and now it's about 20%. Yes. So you contribute about 6% of your salary to your retirement, and your employer contributes about 20%. So that is a really good deal for educators. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we had a piece of legislation in 2020. I was still employed in 2020. And you know how we get all these call out alerts that they want us to call, call all of our legislators to tell them not to pass a bill. Well, and I did send a few emails and a couple of texts, but I didn't have time to really do a lot with this because I was in the classroom working. But our retired members bombarded the legislature with emails to the point they shut down the server. They sent so many letters, they just completely piled up their mailroom. They just called them, they emailed them, they texted them, and they got this piece of legislation stopped. They just want to change one word. They just want to change it to 3% or less COLA awarded annually. So, but our retirees really worked hard to stop this terrible piece of legislation. And now I'm retired and you're in the classroom, but we have bad legislation. I'm one of the retirees who's going to be going to bat for all of us because I've got time, and you're in the classroom doing your job, and we're out of the classroom and we're going to do our job. Okay, next slide, please. There have been all kinds of lousy pieces of legislation trying to impact our pension reform. They've tried to change our sick leave, take that away. They want to change the multiplier. Like instead of we will get a 1.5% raise every January and July, they want to change it to we may get a 1.5% raise every July and January. But they want to change how they do the highest average salary, change contribution rates, vesting requirements. We have been able to, GAE and GAE Retired have been able to really fight off these dangerous pieces of legislation that would hurt our retirement. And we will continue to fight. All right, next slide, please. Okay, this is how the legislation works. Retirement legislation that has a fiscal impact can only be introduced during the first year of a 2-year session and can only be acted on during the second year. Our legislation, the session that just ended, was the first year of the 2-year session. All right, next slide, please. Okay, this is our return to work, House Bill 385, and this is a bill that allowed retirees to return to work in very limited areas. They didn't open it up for anyone to go back in any capacity in any area. Special education was the critical subject with the most participants. which is really great for our students to have experienced educators in the classroom to work with them. And then they didn't allow very many elementary education people to return, mostly science and math other than special education. Okay, this bill will sunset next year. So if a new bill is not passed to continue this bill, it'll just sunset and go away. A lot of the hope is that the bill will be expanded to allow people to come in from more areas. I retired from an elementary school, and I don't know why they don't think that kindergarten and first grade is critical, because it is sometimes very hard to find those primary school teachers, especially in rural areas of the state. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
I have a question. When you use your sick leave, when you're close to retirement, does it have to be in years or can you use months? Say if you have 6 months of sick leave, can you use that toward retiring early, buying?
Yes, yes, you can. Yes, it is, I believe it is by month, but yes, because like I said, I had like 1 year, 11 months or something, or 1 year, 10 months. So it didn't have to be a whole year to count, but it does. If you have 6 months of sick leave built up, yes, that will count.
Thank you.
Patrick has his hand up.
Thank you. Lisa, you do an outstanding job. You, along with Debbie Simons, who is our former GAE president, who's chairman of the board, and she keeps us well informed. This is one thing we do very well as GAE retired, is to keep this, keep you abreast of what's happening. I just want to remind everyone what we have in Georgia versus other states, because I received pension from Alabama. We have not had a cost of living raise in 20 years.
Oh my
Texas has
goodness.
not had one in 50 years. And we get a 1.5% COLA every 6 months, and it's compounded. And so this is something that we really protect with everything that we have. And so I want everybody to know that, you know, that's why GAE Retired is so passionate about our retirement, because it is our lifeblood. And it's one of the things that no other organization will fight for like we do. And I wanted to say I have to get off early. So I wanted to thank Tony and Karen Solheim, Doris, and all the presenters for everything they do. And I wanted to say, I hope you do. If you have not done pre-retirement, I hope you do it. And that I know that you will be in good hands once you retire. So if you have any questions, you can email me at gae.president.retired@gmail.com. Tony, if you don't mind putting that in the chat, I would really appreciate it. And I want to thank you all and have a great rest of your day. And again, thank you, Tony.
And I'm going to just point out, and Dr. Jackson mentioned this during her presentation. If you have some years where you taught in another state, the information Patrick just gave us, where Alabama, for example, hasn't had a cost of living raise in many, many years. Texas hasn't had a cost of living raise in 50 years. So if you do have some years of service in another state, you really need to talk to TRS about what it will take for you to purchase that time to apply to your years in Georgia, because we do give you a raise twice a year, every single year. Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you so much and have a great rest of your Saturday.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. You did a fantastic job. Now we come to the part in our program that's a little different. We have a presenter who's going to talk to us about Social Security from Edward Jones, and they require that they use their own Zoom link. So I have put the link to the next segment in the chat 3 times, and it should be the last thing in your chat now. And what should happen is when you click on this link, Zoom should ask you if you want to end one Zoom and start another. So we're going to see how this works. We've never done this before. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to enter the next Zoom room by clicking on the link in the chat, and then I will join you there. If you're having trouble getting in with the other link, let me know. The link is in the chat for the next part of the seminar.